and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Catherine Niker. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. Joining me today, you know him, you love him. It's your boy S. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on as always. Yeah, I'm excited to hang out in the next couple of weeks in the live show, Raptors Republic. Shout out to them.
Yes.
Hopefully, I need a set.
S, you tell us, because I was just complaining that Gerard didn't invite me to be on the panel this year. I was on the panel last year, and then he asked me to do stand-up comedy to open the show, and I was like, no one's here for stand-up comedy though. And so then I started, and then the audience was like a little like bewildered and confused, and I was getting pissed off. And then I basically yelled at the audience and told them I was gonna finish my set no matter what.
Oh man! First of all,
and then I had to immediately sit on a panel with Samson and with Katie Heindel and Sean Woodley. Shout out to them. And I was just so over it. And then I didn't get invited back.
You didn't get the call back. That's crazy. Audition process, right? This was a 2-year-long audition process for you, and you didn't get the call back, Catherine. You didn't get the call back. Look, first of all, you should do a set again. I think the set was successful. I laughed at the set. If you heard the one person laughing, it was me. I was laughing at the set. I thought it was funny. No, honestly, I thought it was really funny. I thought a lot of people enjoyed it, by the way. Everybody was like, "Oh, that was awesome." Like, yeah, let's incorporate more comedy into Raptors stuff. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which you couldn't tell by listening to this pod. But I am a bit of a perfectionist. So when I don't get a certain level of response, I just get like pissed off.
Right. But that's tough. Problem. That's a tough thing to do as a comedian, right? Because you're hoping for the punchline or you're hoping for the reaction to the punchline, and then they just don't. Oh, that must be great.
I got through a phase where I was like, if I don't get an applause break on this joke, I'm leaving angry. And then I was like, this isn't normal. I gotta calm this down a bit. Yeah. So here's the thing. You know, there's like a movie thing, like a movie writing thing where you're like, someone's not a reliable narrator.
Yeah.
Like they're telling the story, but they're a character. So it's their version of the story. That's me. I'm not always my most reliable narrator. I'm always a little negative.
Yeah.
So just everyone should just know that about me, is that I do skew a little negative when I'm talking about myself. But anyways, thank you for that, S. And you know what? I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come to the live show. I'm gonna hang out. It's February 6th.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Well, we'll confirm that.
I'm pretty sure it's February 6th.
Yeah, I think it's February 6th. Check out our website or on our social media. I'm sure it's there. I'm going to come anyways, because it's always great to see everybody. And it's always a good time. Yeah. And you're going to be there, S.
Yes, I'm sure you guys at Raptors Republic. I mean, this whole week has been, I started doing the recaps, and then I jumped on Samson's pod yesterday with Trey. And now I'm jumping on this pod. So it's probably like, man, these guys are like, oh man, they're really pushing this S character, this guy, you know? But yes, no, appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Well, people love you, you know? So it's our pledge. It's our pledge. All right, let's get into the biggest NBA news this week. Adrian Griffin fired from the Milwaukee Bucks. Doc Rivers immediately hired. I have some thoughts on this that are slightly conspiracy theory-ish, but only slightly, and I'd like to know what you think, S, and then you can give us some actual analysis on the situation.
I wonder if me and you have the same conspiracy theory in that they always wanted to hire Doc Rivers. Like, is that right? Are we aligned here? Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, because there was it came out in reports that that Doc Rivers was asked to be a consultant.
Right.
During the Vegas in-season tournament, because he was there as a broadcaster. And I think that was actually the day Adrian Griffin lost his job.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, I'm going to do something I hate, and that is use a relationship comparable to the NBA.
Go for it. Yeah.
But because when you're in like a relationship that isn't going well, there's like the moment you realize it's over, and then there's the moment it actually ends.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel like that was the day it was actually over.
Fair. Yeah. Have you ever trained the person who was gonna inevitably like
Take your
replace
job?
you at a job? I have. I know
Oh.
how it feels because you're like, oh yeah, well, so you got to do this, and then you realize like halfway through training them, you're like, there's this moment of realization where you're like, this person's gonna take my job in a couple
Yeah.
months, you know,
I
and
was an intern, and like I was in college, I was in film school, and I was an intern, and it was like a summer internship, and this my boss brought in her daughter who was like 14 years old. And anyways, her daughter made like a really bad mistake, and then it got blamed on me, and then
of course
I
it did.
lost my job and she took it over, a 14-year-old.
Oh, the classic Doc Rivers, Adrian Griffin
Yeah.
right there. That's it right there.
No, but I
Yeah.
think I mean, to be the consultant and then to be hired as the replacement,
Yeah.
I mean, that's backstabbing
There's
101, is
either
it
there's
not?
either two things, right? Either the Bucks are so dumb that they hired the person that was consulting the person that wasn't doing a good enough job, or Doc Rivers was personally feeding him bad information so that he would get fired, and then
Oh,
he
yeah,
eventually
I
got hired.
think
It's
Doc
either
Rivers was all over that. His
yeah, probably
contract
right.
is $40 million.
Yeah, sweet, sweet,
You know,
sweet.
that's enough money to be like, "Sorry, buddy."
Yeah,
You know what I
tough
mean?
luck.
Tough
Yeah.
luck, like, you're still gonna get paid.
Yeah.
Budenholzer is still getting paid. They've got
Plus
3 coaches on their payroll now,
he
head
gets to
coaches.
coach Giannis and Dame,
Yeah.
be immediately a championship contender,
Yep.
get to probably face Philadelphia in the second round, and hey, here, Joel, here's what you thought, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, he's like, this talking to Bill Simmons thing is cute and all, but,
Yeah, I'm gonna get back at
I
you.
had my reunion with KG and Paul Pierce. I've
Yeah,
done the ESPN thing. I'm over it.
yeah, right, yeah.
I
He
bet
was
the
I
second
will
he was in
say
that chair with Doris Burke, he's like, "I need to be on the other side of this court."
he was terrible, in my opinion, as a color commentator and play. Like he was at when you were listening to games, it was like color commentators are meant to provide color to whatever's
Mhm.
happening on the court, right? But like Mike Breen would be like, "Oh, and what a shot!" And then he would just be like, "Man, that was great."
Yeah, literally.
Silence for like three, and yeah,
'Cause he
he was
didn't wanna
very bad.
be there. He
He
wants
did
to
not want to be
coach.
there.
He
No.
wants to coach. I to me, like, I this is first of all, this is a Doris Burke stan podcast. That's just what it is.
Hell yeah,
I think she's incredible, and I don't think she needs a third,
I agree.
to
Yeah,
be honest. Like, I think she's really good at her job. She provides the color like you're talking about. She's extremely informative and intelligent about the game. She just doesn't need a third person.
yeah, I agree with you.
So,
Yeah, I
anyway.
agree. It should just be Mike Breen and Doris Burke for the finals and just go
Yes,
with it.
and I
Yeah.
think that's what they're doing. I read a report that they're not reconsidering bringing back Mark Jackson and Jeff
Yeah.
Van Gundy, and I was like, "Thank God."
Right. Right.
They were like the old man Muppets.
They were like the old man Muppets. They were exactly like the old man Muppets.
Like, I was like, "These guys don't even like basketball."
They were it got to the point where it was old man yelling at cloud for like the NBA finals, And it's just like it's crazy that was the product,
That they were putting out.
yeah, exactly. They were promoting the NBA by bashing the NBA for
Yeah,
like
basically saying everything was better in their day,
yeah.
like, literally everything, which is, like, actually not true. Oh god. Okay, so yeah, Adrian Griffin just got bamboozled, just
Yes.
fully bamboozled in my opinion. Not that I think he was necessarily doing a good job per se.
Sure.
I mean, it seemed like he I saw somebody say like a report that said he like lost the locker room, and I was like, I don't think this guy ever had the locker room.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I remember that first, it might have been like the first Bucks Celtics meeting where Griffin kind of gave Giannis shit, and Giannis was like, "What am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, talk to me, communicate to me." And even from then, you're just like, "Oh man, these guys are just not on the same page. They are not on the same page whatsoever." And yeah, it starts to like permeate throughout the rest of the locker room, right? Now, like Damian Lillard is questioning whether
Yes.
Griffin should be the coach. And then Brooke Lopez is like, all right, well, if Giannis and Dame aren't on the same page with this guy, why should I be on the same page with this guy? And then it just like it goes from there, and then you lose the locker room, and then 2 months later you're out of a job. So it's
Yeah.
tough. being a rookie head coach thrown into a situation where it's like you have to be a contender from day one. You have insane expectations on you from day one, and that's a tough cookie to crumble, or whatever you want to call it, when it comes to Griffin. But yeah, it was sort of like, I guess it's doomed to fail, because he was just put in a position where, like, regardless of what heights he reached, he wouldn't have been able to be successful,
Right. I mean, it's like, it's weird because it has happened twice before in recent history, right? With like Steve Kerr,
Yeah,
he was a first year head coach and then won a championship. And then obviously with Nick Nurse.
sure.
But so maybe like that's kind of given people this like
Belief.
this belief that you can be a first time. Well, I guess technically Ty Lue as well.
Yeah.
With the Cavaliers. So there have been cases in recent history where like it has been successful, and like, obviously you won a championship with us. But I think like, we all know I'm biased towards Nick Nurse. And that's a me problem. I'm not claiming he's a good guy, but like he said, I read his book, and one of the things he said in his book was like, you have to get experience being the guy that has to face the players.
Yeah.
And so that's why he chose to be a head coach as many times as possible over being an assistant throughout his coaching career, because he's like, you get that experience.
Yeah.
And so I feel like with Adrian Griffin, he's this longtime assistant, and then
that's a good point. That's
right?
A really good point.
And then it's like he doesn't have that experience being the guy that has to face the players.
Right.
We saw it in Houston with Silas. What's his? I forgot. Why am I
Steven Silas? Yeah.
Steven Silas. Thank you. I was blanking on his first name. Right. Same thing. He was a longtime assistant, and he finally got that head coaching gig, and then he lacked that part of the experience. So to me, I feel like that's part of it.
No, that's a really, really good point. Having to, like, I don't know, face the music, if you will, when it comes to the players, and how to deal with the personalities. And that's why they go with Doc Rivers. Like, if there's one thing that you could take away from Doc is, okay, he coached Tracy McGrady when he was in Orlando. He coached, obviously, the KG Paul Pierce Celtics. He coached the Clippers with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, and then the Clippers with, Paul George and Kawhi, and then the Sixers with Joel and Harden. And so, like, whether he was successful or not, has dealt with a lot of personalities. And I think part of what you're doing when you're bringing a guy like Doc in is to deal with the personalities of Giannis and Dame and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, and how you're going to galvanize this group. The talent is there for this team to be really successful. You just hope that Doc's like schematics, playoff failures, playoff whatever, doesn't kind of rub off on this team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the ghosts of Christmas past.
The ghosts of Christmas past. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The ghosts of Game 7's past.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. Like, I don't want to pass judgment on this team too quickly, because I felt like, a lot of people are doing that with the Clippers after the James Harden trade. And then sure enough, they figured it out. And now they're like a real serious contender. Probably the best chance they've had in that franchise's history, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
To win a championship. So you never know, like, there's still enough time in this season for the Bucks to figure it out. So I don't want to call them a huge hot mess, but it does feel that way right now. It does feel a bit tumultuous, but we'll see if Doc Rivers can convince Giannis to set a pick and roll and set a screen and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
The celebration, the Milwaukee Bucks celebration at the start of the game. Apparently they do that every game, but it looked like there was a little extra a little bit extra excitement. Yeah. And a lot of people were I'm still calling it Twitter.
As you should. I haven't called it X.
Yeah, it's just too weird. Like a lot of people are on Twitter like, man, they really hated this guy. Like, they were really, really celebrating. So it feels kind of unanimous that they all wanted him out, which is
yeah. Well, it is what it is. Like, I'm sure you've had a boss where you're like, oh my God, I'm happy that man or woman or whoever is gone. Sure, right. Yeah. Same here. So I think it's just like, you always get that like post firing boss bump. Whatever it is, whatever that's called.
Yeah. Her name was Sangeeta.
Sangeeta.
Shout out Sangeeta. Glad you were gone. All right. But shout out, you know what? If your name is Sangita and you're listening
Shout
to
out to
this pod,
Sangita. Yeah.
you're good people. Okay.
Big
You're
shout out
good
Sangita.
people. It was just one individual who
One
rubbed me the
managerial
wrong
Sangita.
way.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. Speaking of Embiid, he scored 70 this week. Huge. I actually like low key like switched from the Raptors game to this Sixers game because I wanted to see how far he would go.
It was also a terrible Raptors game,
It
so I
was
don't blame
also
you.
yeah. So there wasn't I wasn't missing much there.
Yeah.
Really incredible stuff. I feel like, we've seen multiple 70-point performances in the last few years, so it kind of feels like this newer phenomenon. We had Carl Anthony Towns trying to go for it. 62 points in a loss to the Hornets. That is just so brutal. They all admitted they were being extremely immature. Everybody's just trying to be Kobe, but you all can't be Kobe. But in any case, with Embiid, with the 76ers, do you think this team is for real? Do you think they can actually get to the finals?
I think, like you said about the Clippers and this being their best chance, I actually think this is the Sixers' best chance too, because there's a little bit of uncertainty in the East, right? Like Milwaukee with the whole coaching thing that we just talked about.
Yeah.
The Celtics are always going to be good, but I also think like the Celtics have legitimate questions around them too, even though they're like blowing away the rest of the NBA right now. I think there's some legitimate playoff questions in terms of like their fourth quarter playoff execution. Just like when the game grinds down, can they get to a bucket? Like these type of things, the Celtics, I feel, struggle at, and they have struggled at so far. So there's questions that make Philly's chances a little bit better when it comes to those top dogs and facing those top dogs. So I really like their chance. Embiid is playing the best basketball of his career, which is crazy because he won MVP last year. Maxey is looking like an all-star. He probably gets announced as an all-star tonight. There's so much to like about this Philly team, and I do think that they're going to add to the team at the trade deadline, whether it be like going out and getting Alex Caruso or just like adding another player in there. Maybe Bruce Brown, who knows? Maybe I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. But just adding another player in there that can be a part of their rotation, I think that makes a lot of sense. I was very bullish on the Sixers last year. I thought if there was one time that they could do it, that they could climb to the mountaintop, it would be last year because it was Harden and he's motivated and whatnot. And they were close, Catherine. They were very close. They were literally up 3-2.
I mean, if Harden was peak, well, not even peak Harden, just good Harden.
Yeah.
And consistent Harden in that playoff run, I do think they would have won it. They've been close. I think at the very least, they get out of the second round this year.
I think I could say that.
That much I'm going to call. And I know that's saying a lot, but I think they are ready to shake off this another ghost of playoffs past. I think they're ready to shake that off. And, the bracket's got to break for them the right way. I think if they have to face Milwaukee and Boston, that's a harder road to travel.
They probably will have to.
Yeah, they probably will.
First round, it's tough because right now, if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, first round would be against Miami, and we all know how tough Miami will be.
Yeah.
And then the second round would be against Milwaukee, and then the Eastern Conference Finals would be against Boston, presumably. So that's a tough road. That's a really, really tough road.
That's a really tough road. I think they need to and I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're looking at that and being like, we need to be second in the East.
Yeah.
For this bracket to break the right way. Because then your first round is maybe like a Cleveland.
Yeah, maybe Indiana.
Maybe Indiana, something like that. And then, and then the Knicks perhaps.
Yep.
Right. And then Boston or Milwaukee. So then that's just a significantly easier path to the finals. And I low key kind of I think currently I could change my mind on this. I want them to be in the finals because I think Embiid versus Jokic in the finals. And it's obviously not a foregone conclusion that Denver's making the finals, although I still consider them the favorite. That would be an all-timer of a series, I think.
Yeah, it would be. Oh my God, Philly versus Denver. That would
to me, that's an all-timer series.
We need to get that at least once, right? The Embiid versus Jokic finals. Just let it happen.
I feel like it really solidifies this generation of basketball.
Yeah.
For those two to face each other. So I'm kind of rooting for it for that reason.
It's sort of like Bird versus Magic for this generation.
Yeah.
Not to the same degree, obviously, because those guys
The millennial Bird
right.
versus Magic, which is
Yeah.
just will never be quite as good enough as previous.
Yeah, this is us being on our Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy right now, you know? It could
Well, I
never
mean,
be good enough.
the Gen Z one is Chet versus Wemby, right? Like,
Yes,
that's
yes,
the
it is.
Gen Z one. They got a
Yeah.
good one.
They do have a good one, and yesterday was an incredible match. Like,
It
they were going
was.
back and forth like crazy.
God, San Antonio needs to become a better team
Soon, eventually,
so that
hopefully,
matchup
right?
can really be actually a
Yeah,
thing, but,
I know, I know.
you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, when it comes to Philly, I really do believe in their chances. I think that they will eventually. I will agree with you that they're going to make a conference finals this year. If they can beat Boston, then they make it to the finals, and then it's just like a coin flip between them and whoever they face because they do have the talent to get to that point. And yeah, it would be exciting to see because like they haven't won since '84, they haven't made to the conference finals and the finals since 2001. Like it's been a while, you know.
Yeah, I think it would be exciting. I didn't put this in our little docket, but Kyle Lowry
Mm.
to the Hornets. Now,
Yeah.
I think he'll be a buyout candidate. I don't think he's
Yeah,
staying
or he'll
there,
get traded somewhere.
or
Yeah.
he'll get traded. I He could throw do a Dragic and be like, I'm not playing here.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know why that hasn't happened yet.
I would be surprised if he even plays a single minute in Charlotte.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
he
so.
is. I don't think he is. In my opinion, I feel like because there's a lot of people that are like, bring him home, bring him home. I
Mhm.
think Kyle still has something to contribute to a contending team.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if he's like one of the last players on their bench, his leadership and his, championship experience could be super valuable. I mean, we were talking about this on the pod last week, like an OKC, if they
Mhm.
had like a roster spot left on their bench, like he would be incredible on their team. I actually think he'd be really great in Philly if they have a
He
spot
would
for
be.
him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think like there are teams that could use his voice. Like
Mhm.
I agree, like he's obviously not the player that he was anymore, and that's why he got traded. Like he's been struggling, like he can't really hit a three anymore, it seems like, and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's got more to contribute before he comes back to Toronto.
Yeah, and he always seems to step it up in the playoffs, even like
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple
Even
years.
in that Miami run, yeah.
Yeah, like he's had moments where he's really shined and has been really important for what they did, even despite like the on and off like not being as good. Obviously, he's gotten to the tail end of his career. I can see Philly. I really like Philly, and also he Philly is one of the only teams that can sign him if he gets bought out. There's a list of like contenders that can't because they're over that tax apron, so they can't sign a guy who's been bought out. Like Phoenix would be a perfect fit for Kyle, but he just can't go there because they don't have the money to. So Philly makes a lot of sense for me. I would like that a lot. I think that would be really cool, especially
Yeah.
him going home, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers and this like crazy protest
Right.
that they are doing with the NBA. First of all, I didn't even know you could do this. Like I
They've
was
done it before. They've done it before. There's
like
been
my first thought was like I didn't know this was a thing, and then my second thought was like, how have the Raptors never done this? I'm sure somebody could go through the archives and come up with a top 10 list of times the Raptors should have done an official protest. But basically what happened was I think it was 11 seconds left in a game.
Mhm.
Portland had the ball. Chauncey Billups was trying to call a timeout. You can see him in the video calling a timeout.
Yep.
There's debate as to whether Brogdon was actually calling a timeout as well or not, but he gets like a double dribble
Yep.
call, and becomes a turnover, and OKC wins the game, and now they're officially protesting this. Do you feel like this is just like a coach having the players back scenario? Or
Yes, but he also seemed very pissed off. Like in
yeah.
that game, he obviously got ejected
Yes, he got ejected,
afterwards.
yeah.
And so I was watching it and that was very wild to see him just get that mad. I've never really seen Chauncey Billups get that angry as a coach yet. So I don't know. I think that like protests rarely work in the NBA. These things have happened before. I think a couple of years ago the Lakers protested a game. Like 10 years ago, I think it was 10 years ago, but the Hawks protested a game against Miami and that game went into overtime. And so the next time Miami and Atlanta played, they actually played the overtime first before they played the game. to kind of readdress, which was
Mhm.
like, it was bizarre. I've never seen anything like that before. And that was one time where the protest worked. I don't remember it ever working before. Like, that
Mhm.
was the one time I
And I think the
remember.
same team still won.
I think the same team also still won. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. These type of things rarely are like, the NBA actually admits something went down. And I mean, I'm sure we've seen that through like the multiple last minute reports for all these
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
It's just weird to see protests, but they rarely work, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think, like, the Trailblazers, like, have a legit grievance. Like, it's
Hmm.
pretty clear that Chauncey was calling a timeout, and even though, like, it's a road game and, the arena is loud and stuff, I do feel like it's up to the refs to know the game situation,
Yeah.
right? And to know that this is a scenario where a coach would typically call a timeout, right? Like, at the final seconds of a close game, it's kind of like, how are you not looking out for that?
Yeah. No, I
So,
I
yeah.
always I always find that when it comes to, so you know how at the end of games sometimes teams will foul, right?
Mhm.
But then they won't call the foul until the team says, "Hey, we're fouling, we're fouling, we're fouling." Like,
Mhm.
you should know that the other team is trying to foul at this point. And I get it. There's like a weird line you have to, what if they're not trying to foul and they're just trying to play aggressive defense and you call the foul instead? So like, the refs need discretion to do their job, but also at the same time, you need to be able to develop that discretion to pick and choose where and what works, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And I think that's something that the NBA officials currently really struggle with, because there's just so much ambiguity to their job, and they're so caught up in, well, we have to play by the rules, or call it how it is. But every single game is officiated differently. So
mhm,
there's no real standardized formula. So if you're trying to act like you're, adopting a standardized formula, then it doesn't work, because you're not. Whatever formula you're trying to adopt, it just isn't working. It's not being
mhm.
successful. So yeah, refs suck, sadly, in the NBA right now.
It feels like I talked about this a few weeks ago, like, it does feel like there's more tension
Yeah.
in the league this year with refs than it has in years past, so, yeah.
Apparently, it's because they've lost a lot of their veteran officials, so they've either retired or they've moved on, and they've
Mm,
become, they're in Secaucus now. They're not doing the road games or whatnot. So now I think over the last 4 or 5 years, they've hired a massive influx of referees. So a lot of these people are new,
mm,
and I think that's part of it. It's like they're trying to develop their officiating and trying to learn the NBA, and it's just like this whole developmental
they
process.
have to go through, like, borderline NASA training, I
They
feel.
do. They
Like,
do.
it's crazy what you'd have to do to train to be a ref. I also feel like part of their training should just be, like, being screamed at
I agree.
and
Yeah.
not being faced
No,
'cause,
I agree. I
like
agree. I have a friend who has been, well, not even a friend, but like an acquaintance, a person I know that has been trying to, well, I hope they're not listening to this. You are a friend if you do listen to this podcast and are tapping in here. But they're trying to get into the NBA as an official and a
mm,
referee, and they've been grinding at this for a long, long time. They started at like the rep level, and then they started in college, and now they're like continuing at the college level, and they do like AAU games and whatnot. And now it's like they're trying to get to the next step, and they just can't, because it's so competitive. It's so
wow.
damn competitive.
That's
Yeah.
a documentary.
It's like a good
That's
movie too.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could be a good movie,
'Cause that's like a world that a lot of people don't know,
Mhm.
and would be super interesting for
Yeah.
sports fans. That's really cool. Well, I hope they
Oh,
make
yeah. We should
it. And
make it.
then and then chant, "Referees suck." You're at the game. He's like, "Yes, I'm right here."
What the hell, man? Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's move on to our Raptors Homer moment. Trade rumors continue to surround this team. Bruce Brown kind of being sort of at the center of this. There's been more Chris Boucher talk.
Yep.
Do you feel, even Masai in his press conference post Siakam trade, he used the word definitely in terms of more moves. It's like, wow. I feel like as a team, it would be hard to be like,
There were a
super
few things.
invested in what you're doing right now
Yeah.
when your president, GM is kind of like definitely more moves. You're
There
like,
were
wow,
there were a
okay.
few things he said in that, like he was like, "Oh well, we're not going to use all of our first round picks this year." He
Mhm.
said, "We're definitely going to make some moves." He was like, "Yeah." When he mentioned the guys, he was like, "Yeah, well, we don't know what the future and uncertainty is." He mentioned rebuilding for the first time as a Raptor.
Mhm,
He actually
mhm.
mentioned the word rebuilding, and you know how that kind of sets off alarms for everybody. That word,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a pretty wild press conference, an hour long, which I've never experienced before. Just like an hour of
You
him,
were there, right?
yeah, being berated by questions. Not even berated, but like he was asked a lot of questions. Yeah,
Yo, so
berated is probably too
I
aggressive.
watched the whole thing, and at first, I'm all emotional and stuff about it, and it was emotional at times,
Yeah,
right? And then I had some time to digest it, and, like, I don't personally know, Eric Kareem from The Athletic, but I
right,
was like, "Wow,
right.
man, that guy took some risks."
He
That guy took some risks during that press conference, like, if
yeah,
you go back and watch it, like, I mean, he made this joke, but which
the
was whatever.
13-year-old, the
Yeah,
13-year-old
yeah,
joke you're
yeah,
talking
but
about? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then he made another comment about, does Masai need to be colder?
Right,
And then
right.
Masai was like, "Colder than I am now? At my like, what do you mean I need to be even colder? Like, what?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "I don't know if I've ever felt that comfortable at a job." Like, I don't know if I've ever been that comfortable at a job
That
to
is
do
that is
something
some
like
good
that.
job security right
Yeah,
there.
that's some real good job security.
That's some great job security. No, you're right. You're right. That's also knowing that like PR can't tell you anything. Like you're just gonna have these conversations and like they can't because he's, reporter for the Athletic. What
Yeah,
else?
yeah.
How else is he gonna do his job? Eric is a funny guy, man. He's a really funny guy. Very helpful and nice guy too. Also, by the way, helped me find a cheaper parking spot for Scotiabank Arena.
Oh,
Also,
nice.
shout out to Eric. Yes. Yeah, that's all
That's
I have.
it.
Yeah, that's all I have. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I don't know. Yeah. Um, on the Masai front,
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing about the whole press conference and what's going to happen. And oh, by the way, like Bruce Brown, who's going to move, what I could see. I even asked on Twitter today, like, okay, between Bruce Brown, Gary Trent Jr., Dennis Schroeder, Chris Boucher, Otto Porter Jr., who do you think gets moved, right? And I think a lot of people were like, all of them, like every single one of them is going to get moved. I
Yeah.
would be very surprised if that happens. I think Dennis is a very important part of like the short term future of this team, especially with Darko. He's become a pretty good vocal leader for this team, especially since coming off the bench. Guys seem to respect him. He's developed a relationship with Emmanuel quickly. I think that is part of. I don't think they would trade Schroeder unless they get a really good offer from a team that's like, we're desperate to get a guy like Dennis
Mhm,
Schroeder.
mhm.
Bruce Brown, I would imagine, gets traded. I think Bruce Brown gets traded. I think Gary Trent Jr. also gets traded. And then I'm kind of split on Chris. I'm not sure if he gets moved or not because he has 1 year left on his contract. So it's like, would a team want to go and get a guy like that, or would they rather
Wait.
not and keep their cap space? So
Right. No, good point. Doesn't Gary Trent Jr. also have like,
he
isn't this
is no, he's a free agent this summer. Free
Yeah,
agent,
yeah, yeah,
free as a
also.
bird. Yeah, yeah,
So, that would be another thing too, right? Like,
yeah.
same as Boucher.
Yeah, pretty much. You have to decide if you want to pay Gary Trent Jr. But also, it's like, well, let's say there's a team that, and Gary, I think, gets paid like 18 million or something. Let's say there's a team like the Lakers who has a way to get to $18 million in salary, but could use Gary Trent's shooting just for this year. They probably won't sign him in the summer, but they just want to get him for this year. Then you could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. There's ways around that. I would probably say Bruce gets traded though. That's like the
Mhm.
first very clear one.
Yeah, I agree, and I also agree that, like, kind of low key everybody is up for grabs right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Probably except for obviously not Scotty and then, Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett, they just got here.
yeah.
But outside of those 3, yeah. And it's weird. I mean, do you think we could end up trading Jakob Poeltl?
If there was the right price, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if
That'd be
someone
so funny.
I know it would be very funny. It also would hurt my soul because of the top 6 protected pick this year. But I think there's a world in which that happens. It really depends because they want their center of the future too, right? So if you're not getting Jakob, we've seen over these last couple of weeks how much not having Jakob has just destroyed this team's ability to win
Mhm,
games.
mhm, mhm.
So they need a big man like that. And like how where else are you going to find that?
Yeah.
If you can point to another center that's available, then sure, maybe we can have a discussion here, but I just
I
don't think
wish
he's
we
there.
got I wish we got Bull Ball in the off season last year. That's who I was rooting for.
Bol
'Cause
Bol.
yeah, because we need that unicorn center,
Yeah.
you know, because I feel like that's the future of this league is the unicorn center.
You're not wrong. You're not
And
wrong.
it's like, I don't think you're a championship team without one of those guys. And I don't know if Bull Ball's gonna be at the level of, like, Chet and Wemby, although
No.
Shaq seems to think so, but Shaq
Yeah.
thinks a
Yeah.
lot of things. And, you know, but still, it's like you need that's what you need, and I feel like, you know, for all the rebuilding that this team is going through, I feel like that's our next step in terms of, like, scouting is
There
who
is a guy. There is a guy this year coming out of the draft. He's not really unicornish like that, but he has the potential to be unicornish like that.
who is this?
He's probably going to be the first overall pick. His name is Alexander Sarr. He
Oh,
plays in Australia currently, I believe. 7'2", big guy, can do a bunch of things on the court, block shots. He would fit very well on this Raptors team.
yeah, well, we're not getting a
Obviously,
number 1 pick.
yeah, obviously that's the difficult part of this whole equation, but they're coming more and more, they're becoming more and more frequent, like these unicorn type
No,
players.
yeah, yeah. He no, besides gotta do what he's always done and find these diamonds in the rough, so to
Yeah.
speak, right?
He's
Like
got to find the Bruno that isn't 2 years away from being 2 years away, essentially.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And he needs to travel the world to find this guy. You know what I mean? Like he could be in Iceland, like who knows? Like he's
Yeah.
gotta travel the world and find this guy. I feel
Mhm.
like that's what's next. In the meantime, you know, the way I phrased this was that, you know, we've got the young guns taking over. And aside from our, you know, BBQ big three here, who do you think is our next rising star?
Oh, you said for aside from BBQ. That's kind of tough because I don't know who's going to be on the team anymore. um,
Okay, fine. Then between then it doesn't
aside
have
from
to be.
okay,
It
okay.
doesn't have to be.
I think I would say Emmanuel quickly is the next rising star on this team. He's being given a lot of opportunity to develop his game, grow his game, and he's going to pair well, really, really well next to Scotty Barnes. Just his shooting ability, his ability to play team defense off the ball too. I think a lot of that pairs well. It matches well with a guy like Scotty and his skill set. So they're going to grow into a really good duo over this next half a season. And then once quickly is re-signed, which I expect him to be, they can develop that chemistry even more. So I don't know. I think quickly is my answer here. I'm very high on Emmanuel quickly and what he can become. I think he can become a star in this league. Some people do not believe that. That is fine. That's okay. I believe on the high upside front when it comes to quickly. He needs to show me more though, to be honest with you. I need him to shoot the ball more. I need him to be more comfortable running an offense. But these things are just things that will have to grow as he grows. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I think a lot of people are high on him for the most part, right? Or at least his potential.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think Scotty Barnes is the future face of the league?
Face of the league. I mean, look, he is a really like a good brand. I mean, they had him in that ESPN commercial in his rookie year. They had him involved in the NBA finals in his rookie year, doing some like questionnaires type stuff, with Tatum and whatnot. I could really see like being a correspondent for them. So I do think they see the value in a guy like Scotty and his like, star power, if you will.
Sure.
Face of the league, I don't know. One of the multiple faces of the league. Yeah. When LeBron retires and when Steph retires and when KD retires, there's going to be this gigantic void that some of
Mhm.
these guys will have to fill. And it's going to be, it's going to be Giannis. It's going to be Luka. It's going to be, Ant Edwards. It's going to be all these other guys, Wemby, obviously,
Mhm.
Shea, but there's a chance that Scotty can get to be a face too.
No, I threw that in to be silly, but I agree. Okay, so you're around the team, you know what I mean? You're around these guys. Do you think Emmanuel Quickly's happy? Do you think he's
Yeah,
happy here?
I do. I think like whenever you get thrown into a situation where you have lots of opportunity, you can't help but be excited of that opportunity. Because what the one thing he was struggling with in New York was like, I want more chances. I'm only getting 25 minutes a game, 26
Mhm,
minutes a game.
mhm.
Now he's up to like 32, 33 minutes a game. He's getting a lot more shots. He's doing, like he's doing the things he wants to. I think with that, there's an excitement that comes. Naturally, though, when you've been somewhere for so long in New York, it takes a little bit to get adjusted to what you're doing now. I don't know if he even has a house yet, or if he's like went house hunting in Toronto, or if he's going to wait until free agency and whatnot to see if he can do that. So like, I would be very shocked if Quickly wasn't happy in Toronto. I think the opportunity, the ability to like, hey, this is your team with Scotty, with RJ. I think that's something that means a lot to players.
I agree. I agree. Let's move on to our hottie highlight of the week. And this goes to Darko and his wife, Gaga, which
Yes.
really excited me to learn her name's Gaga. I'm a huge Lady Gaga fan.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think Lady Gaga has any I don't think it's like a Serbian connection or
It's not-
anything, but they are donating $20 for every assist the Raptors get to 3 children's hospitals, sick kids, and then there's a hospital in Serbia, and I'm blanking on the third hospital here. But regardless, really incredible stuff. I mean, this guy is like, he's the most angelic coach
Yeah.
in a lot of ways that I've ever seen.
He has, Catherine, just to kind of like add it to your hottie thing, okay?
Yeah.
He has incredible eyes. Incroyable eyes. Like when he's speaking to you, obviously in the like tiny press room that you're packed into like sardines, and you're like a foot away from him asking the questions, he's looking at you directly into your soul with his eyes, and they're like these blue sparkly eyes, and you're like, man, this dude has some really nice eyes. So yes, just wanted to put it out there into your haughty ether to say that he has.
I love to hear it.
He has nice eyes.
I love to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah, the charity thing is also cool. Sorry. That is also cool to do. I'm sorry. I forgot the whole point of this conversation.
You got lost in his eyes.
I got lost in the eyes. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's really incredible stuff. I mean, that is what this segment is for, truly.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's really great. I mean, I was, thinking just about like what a nice guy Darko is, and what a real like 180 this has been from Nick Nurse. Like truly.
Oh, yeah.
Like in my mind, like I'm not saying Nick Nurse ever said this, but in my mind, Nick Nurse was like, I don't go to hospitals, I win championships. You know what I mean?
Have you ever like dated someone and then your rebound was the exact opposite of the person that you were dating? That's what this sort of feels like. It's like
major.
You were in a long committed relationship with someone who just wasn't treating you right anymore, and so you went and found someone who's like way too nice, and like would check in on you every day, like, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Let me know. Hope all is well, right? That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're describing my October. But anyway.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's exactly what it's like. And it's just like, man, this guy keeps getting nicer and nicer. Also, real distraction from the dinner. You know what I mean? It's a nice distraction from the dinner that has never.
That's probably never going to come, by the way. I don't think the pizza party is going to happen this year, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, why did this dinner turn into a pizza party? I feel like social media turned this into a pizza party.
It like, absolutely has.
This man said dinner.
He never even mentioned pizza.
He never mentioned pizza, and then social media turned dinner into pizza party. And this guy's probably sitting there like, man, I really thought I said dinner. Like, was this lost in translation?
You gotta keep this for your stand-up set in Rivoli. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. But no, seriously, you're right though. And like the pizza party, it's funny because like that's what we used to do as kids, right? Like everybody was like, oh my god, if you did this today, you did your homework, everybody gets a pizza party. I think that's where people got it from. Like that's the
Right,
vibes of this
right.
Toronto Raptors team. It's like, your children, if you win 3 games, we're gonna
It's
we're
like
gonna have a big
he's
pizza
just
party.
so wholesome that no one imagines this is a steak dinner. It's pizza party, it's orange drink. Remember
Yes.
orange drink?
Yes, orange drink and red
Stuff.
drink. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, like just stuff like that.
Mhm.
Picnic tables.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
The
maybe.
OVO Center gets converted into a carnival.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, I think the pizza party is not happening this year, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to break it to you. I don't think they will get 3 wins in a row. I would be very shocked if they get 3 wins in a row.
If the dinner doesn't happen until next season and Gary Trent Jr. is traded, does he owe Gary Trent Jr. dinner?
That's a good question. This is why this podcast exists right here.
I'm here asking the tough questions, I'm here asking the tough questions.
I think
This is why I'll never get a media pass. I can't be
Can you
getting
imagine?
lost in this man's eyes.
Can you imagine in the wild winds of zone defense and man to man and matchup? You're just like, so Darko. Let's say hypothetically one of these players leaves the team. Would they still be able to get the dinner afterwards? Is it prorated, or does he get a half dinner? Does he get a half dinner? Do you leave halfway through whatever
Does he
dinner?
get a coupon? Does he get an Uber Eats?
Anything? Yes, I agree.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, imagine like you and Samson, like you're asking, and Lewis, like you're asking all these like questions about like defensive schemes and plans for the team, and then there's me asking this, and it's like, wait, you're all part of Raptors Republic. How is that possible?
Oh man.
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much, S, for joining me this
Of
week.
course.
Let us know what you're up to, and for our listeners, where they can find you on the internets.
Yeah. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, tap into the recaps on YouTube that I do on Raptors Republic. Every game I will be recapping them the morning afterwards. So, the recaps themselves, they have a little bit of quotes from that you might have missed from the last night, whether it be from Darko Rajakovic or some of the Raptors players. It'll have some film to break down what happened and what you might have missed, and just, overall me talking about the game. So yeah, tap into those. Thank you very much, Catherine. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and I will see you at Rivoli. Zarar, inviter.
Yes, Zarar. Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye.